This is a response to TheRealDarthKye. If you need some context, you can see the original video in the link below, but I describe pretty well what I'm addressing as I go through the points in this video. So, let me begin. No, scientists do not think the universe had a first cause. It's not as simple as that. The three theories you name are also not mutually exclusive. They are theories with evidence, though, while God is not. The main problem with this is that there can't be a cause before there is time. You are also dealing with things that are smaller than a Planck length, which only exist as a probability. So there is a probability of anything happening. You can end up with an expansion of space, such as the Big Bang, from a quantum event like that. The problem with the God concept is that it is a presupposed, unfalsifiable thing you have inserted into a knowledge gap. Next, you move on to discuss infinity. I disagree with you here, and you seem to disagree with you here too, since you talk about God being infinite, but I digress. An infinity can exist. It would be what some call the multiverse. I would agree with you that infinite time is almost certainly impossible. The multiverse almost certainly has no time. Time seems to be caused by expanding space. Infinite space is not impossible. The existence of infinity does not mean there is an infinite distance between us. You can have an infinite number of finite distances in infinity. Just because something is infinite does not mean we can't measure finite parts of it. It just means that no matter how big or small you make these divisions, there will always be an infinite number of them. At 5 minutes in, you ask the following question. If the universe is an infinite spontaneous vacuum fluctuation, how is it that they are not popping in and out of existence before us? That is because they are their own area of spatial expansion. It is not the space-time of our universe, it is its own universe, creating its own space-time that is separate from ours. Even if it came from an event in our space-time, it becomes its own space-time and exists in different dimensions than we do. No, scientists do not say these universes could reach infinite size. There can only be one infinity, not to mention they are expanding space-time, which links space and time together. Therefore, it is almost certainly impossible for space to be infinite in the presence of time. The universes themselves can't be infinite. However, there very well could be an infinite number of them for all we know. How is the vacuum fluctuation idea absurd? You are making a baseless assertion here based on your lack of knowledge on the topic. The matter in the universe did not always exist. No theory is based on that, so you are making a straw man here. At 8 minutes in, you say that anything that exists, including the space-time of our universe, requires a cause to exist. That is false. There cannot be a cause before there is time. Furthermore, in a quantum event, you can have something happen from something that exists only as a probability. Look up the term quantum event. You also need to understand what a Planck length is and a Planck time are. You also need to understand what they are derived from, namely the speed of light, the gravitational constant, and Planck's constant. Please educate yourself on these topics. I do agree infinite regression is impossible. However, you have both an explanation of existence through a quantum event as well as an infinite multiverse which solves these problems. What you do after that is try to substitute God for the multiverse. The multiverse has evidence, however the God concept is unfalsifiable and has no evidence. You can't take any knowledge gap you want and insert whatever presupposed idea that suits your fancy. This God concept has a definite epistemological problem too. With no empirical evidence or logical reasoning showing why it must exist, the only other source of knowledge is the mind. So this concept that can only be made up due to the aforementioned problem of epistemology is being said to coincidentally exist on premises based on your misunderstanding of science and eagerness to plug the resulting gap in your knowledge with your presupposed concept of choice. I'm not sure if you can fully grasp the absurdity of such an idea. I agree with your Lego analogy, however, we would have evidence of such interactions, and yet we don't. Just before 10 minutes in, you move on to your conclusion, saying the impossibility of infinite regression makes two of these theories impossible. However, that's not so, as I have already explained. You say that the vacuum fluctuation idea is logically impossible. That may be true in the world of Newtonian physics that we inhabit, however, that's not how things work at a quantum level. You can't make logical conclusions about quantum physics based on data from Newtonian physics. These are two completely different things. Even if we didn't know any of that, you still can't conclude any unmoved mover is required. This tactic of eliminating theories based on your own lack of knowledge in order to leave your presupposed ideas the answer by process of elimination is intellectually dishonest and is still presupposition and an argument from ignorance. It is also begging the question, as your argument is premised on this God concept being the creator, and then your conclusion is that it exists. You can't have something in the premise and the conclusion, as that is circular logic. I agree on the two premises at 10.5 minutes regarding Jesus, however, as it happens, they are not true, so it's a moot point. I already have a very good idea of how you intend to show that the Christian God has to be the God, which you failed to prove here. Let me just preempt you. The only historical information we have about Jesus was far removed from the source. The writings of Josephus were at the very end of the 1st century and were only a passing reference. This is many years after the fact. Next is Tacitus, however, this is even later and therefore even more unreliable. Urban legends can spread far and become much exaggerated in only a few years. How about a story that is 50 to 100 years old? This is not evidence of any sort. Not only that, they don't even mention miracles and divinity. So there is no reason to accept that as any validation of Christianity. I think I have shown here for like the 100th time now how the God concept is completely without merit. If you would like more, I do have a plethora of other videos addressing this concept. In fact, I really find no need to just make a video about this sort of thing anymore. At this point, I really only reply to other people in order to give specific examples of the failings of any and all sorts of this line of argumentation.